Here's a Philco radio that I picked up at the flea market today. The model tag is gone, but from what I can find online, I think this is a 1940 model. This is a 6-tube transformer-based radio that receives the standard broadcast band and a couple of shortwave bands. And believe it or not, the radio was actually sitting on a table outside playing when I got there. And you can also see that someone has replaced the grill cloth with some flowery print junk that'll have to be replaced. And the finish is kind of worn on the cabinet, but there's no major veneer damage to contend with, so ought to be in good shape there. So I'll turn this on and let you hear it operate. Now, obviously, I'm not going to play this for very long until I check the capacitors and all that good stuff. I'm sure this thing's been worked on, but
I just can't act like a child. I can't know myself, and you're ringing my bell. Hope you're not impatient after waiting.
It's one of Meridian's newest stations. It used to be a black gospel station, then the owner died, and then the station was silent for about a year, and now they're back on the air as Power 1290, and they appear to play a mix of R&B and soul music from 70s, 80s, and 90s. Tone control does absolutely nothing. Volume control is very touchy.
It just might. Movie this weekend. It's with Billy Crystal and Bette Midler.
This dial cord's kind of stuck, so I don't want to push it. Don't want to break the dial string. See if we can get anything on shortwave.
I believe God has inspired it, and I believe you will be.
Dial cord's getting kind of tight, so don't want to push my luck. There's something. Okay, let's turn it around and see what the back looks like. Here's the back of the radio, and obviously the power cord has been replaced at some point in time, but probably not recently. This power cord looks like something from the 50s or 60s, so it's probably been serviced at some point, but not recently. Well, let's see if we can determine how recent. Let's pull the chassis and see what the underside looks like. We're not going to do any restoration work on this radio right now. I want to get the GE radio that I left you hanging with, as well as the Westinghouse radio with a squealing problem. I want to get those two taken care of before I dive into anything else, but let's just pull the chassis and see what we've got. And here's the chassis out of the case, and right off the bat, I'm seeing some hack repairs. First off, the speaker. Now, somewhere around here, I've got a junker chassis that goes in one of these radios, and as I recall, it had an electrodynamic speaker in it that I think was physically bigger than this. As you can see, somebody's replaced the original speaker with a permanent magnet speaker, and they just left it dangling in here. The only thing holding it is this wire band running around the speaker frame, around over here to this frame here that holds a replacement power transformer in place that someone installed. And I know this is not original Philco. That's hack repair number 2. And once again, my chassis has an original Philco transformer, so I may just pull the good transformer off of the junker chassis and see if it'll work in here. I'm sure it will, because I think they're the same chassis. Now, I'm scared to look under the bottom, but might as well. In looking under the chassis, I can see that some capacitors have been replaced a long time ago. We've got this blue seal capacitor here that I believe is probably from the 70s, maybe the late 60s. And it is a 20 microfarad, 150 volt, which is rated too small for a transformer set. Generally, a power transformer based radio will use 450 volt capacitors. And here's another capacitor here, an RCA branded cap. Likely something hacked out of a TV set. Let's see what value it is. Okay, 10 microfarad, 450 volt, that's about right. And I can see this capacitor here has been replaced. That type of capacitor came out in the 60s and was around here in the early 70s too. So yeah, I would say this radio was probably serviced about 40 years ago. And this is just another example of, just because one plays when you find it, that's no guarantee of what all's been done to it and what kind of hack repairs you're going to find. So if you find one that plays, it's still best to open it up just to see what's been done. And of course, all these old wax paper capacitors, they're going to have to go. And this thing right here is actually 2 capacitors in one casing. This is the old Philco Bakelite block capacitor that was very popular during the 1930s on Philco radios. And what we'll do here is remove this and melt out the old capacitor and install 2 new capacitors inside. I believe this is the line bypass cap, which has 1 capacitor going from each side of the AC line to the chassis, and those definitely need to be replaced. That's just an accident waiting to happen. Okay, there you go, my 1940 Philco radio. I'll get around to restoring this in the near future when I get some of the other projects taken care of, but there you go. Thanks for watching, and more to come later. And by the way, I can still detect an odor from where the original power transformer went up in smoke. Once you smell that odor, that's something you'll never forget. And I think I'm just going to go ahead and cut the cord off of this, because obviously I'm not going to play this until it's properly restored. I don't want to take a chance of those caps shorting and possibly burning something else up. So we just won't play this one again until it receives some workbench time. Okay, I'm gone, and thanks for watching, and more to come later.